Oh my gosh, you won't even commit to stopping offensive weapons. First of all, this is bullshit from the start. Oh, there's a difference between defensive weapons and offensive weapons. No, there isn't. From Israel's calculation, there is no difference because Israel only, like I said, gets to behave as belligerent and as violent as it wants to because it knows that America will always replenish its stockpile. America will always defend it unconditionally. Okay? But you won't even say yes to a ban on offensive weapons anyway. Let's take a look.
Sir, do you think that Jeffrey Epstein had any connections to U.S. or Israeli intelligence?
Wait, where is the 12-minute back and forth between Elissa Slotkin, who went on Crystal and Sagar's show, who got absolutely destroyed?
So,
or I guess we'll watch
not that I've ever
thing.
seen or heard, but there's
Have you
a
asked?
really... No, I haven't asked. But, you know, this is like a solvable question because President Trump's CIA director, John Radcliffe, can answer this question.
Okay, I sent it previously. Should be in my logs. I think it's like the last part, right?
World War II, working on. But I go outside the Detroit area, it's not in the top 40.
But Senator, it's not just a political...
Until he won, but because I think it's important, right? If you're going to push, and so Trump won 2 out of the 3. So I think the thing that I would push back on is the voters vote with their feet, right? We have a moment in an election where they get to decide. And there was no issue that was more difficult for me in this last, I would say 6 years, but certainly in this last election, other than this issue, because it's personal. I'm a Middle East analyst by training. And so what I tried to do and why I think I managed to win both those communities is call balls and strikes literally up to this week on what's going on.
So let's talk a little bit more about that.
But I think it's important, right? If you're going to push on me, then I think like there's one of us that's had an election and had to appeal to my voters and win. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that Mr. Mamdani won. Or actually, I didn't know his name. I didn't know much about him until he won. But because I think this issue is motivating people in a very visceral and personal way.
Yes.
But
it
it's
starts
not
at
the
9.
only
Okay.
issue that my voters in Michigan care about.
Of course.
And the online world is extremely, extremely focused on this. But that doesn't always represent the majority. And I think if I can push back, like if we're out on the road every day in Michigan when I'm there. In some communities, that issue.
You are legit missing a highlight? Okay, we'll start from the start. Sorry.
I mean, I guess I'm actually a little curious, and forgive me if this is impolite. Like, I'm curious why you wanted to talk to us.
What do you mean?
Well, like we don't have actually a lot of senators, especially ones who have very different ideology than us, reach out. So I'm curious what your goal was and why you thought to come here.
Well, first of all, I think you have a good audience. I mean, right?
We agree.
If you appealed to like 4 friends on YouTube or whatever, then I probably wouldn't be here. But I think, to me, part of the problem is that people have kind of gone to their corners. And I live this, right? I live on my family farm in a town that voted heavily for Donald Trump. I've never won my town. I've never won my precinct.
You want to know why these people are doing this kind of stuff? They're doing this kind of stuff because, 1, they don't do their due diligence. That's number 1. They think this is like a bipartisan show because they got Sagar on. You know what I mean? She thinks it's like the closest to mainstream media, which would be non-contentious, but on the independent side. But the major reason why Elissa Slotkin and many other politicians are trying to do this kind of independent media route is because they unironically think Zoran won exclusively because he did social media, okay? They legitimately believe it. The things that they hear on CNN, which is the recycling of Zoran won because he did great social media. He did great outreach on social media. That's why he won over and over and over again, is something that they actually believe. And I know this because Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government believes this as well. That's why they went on the Nelk Boys podcast. They don't realize that Trump didn't just win because he went on podcasts. He won because he could come across as like a normal human being on these podcasts in a way that no other politician can because he's a television personality. Okay? And the same goes for the Democrats as well, and the same goes for Benjamin Netanyahu as well. These guys literally think, oh, if we appear on some of these podcasts, then we'll win. This is their new media strategy. They do not understand that people, especially on the independent media side, people like certain content creators like myself and many others, not because we're hot or whatever. It's because we represent a position that they do not get from MSNBC, from NBC, from CBS, from CNN. Okay. So all of those puff pieces that people write about me being like, he's a MAGA guy, he looks like a MAGA guy, but he's got progressive politics, like all this shit, all of that actually loses sight of, bro, chill with the self-fellatio, shut up. I'm making a point about I'm making a point about like why people come in and tune in, okay? And it's not because like, I mean, Anderson Cooper's hot. He's way hotter than me. There are plenty of people who are incredibly attractive on television. It has nothing to do with the way people look. Does the way people look play a role in this? Certainly. But that's not the major reason. The major reason is because of the arguments that I'm presenting that appeals to the masses. An argument that they haven't really heard before. An argument that they feel is correct, that they have not heard anywhere else before. That's it. But the media refuses to acknowledge that. Just like they refuse to acknowledge that a major part of Zoran's victory came from his commitment to identifiable policies that he kept hammering over and over and over again, regardless of whatever kind of attack was launched in his direction.
Never won my neighbors. We get along, but I never won them, and I probably never will. So to me, I think that the people have gone to their corners, and like people who used to be able to talk about politics and disagree don't even get in the same room together. So I kind of like the idea of your show. Like it was interesting to me when my team pitched me, right? We go through and like, there's no hiding it. Lots of people are like, how do we evolve in this new space? Yeah. You know, like that's not you know, it's not that conversation isn't happening. It is. And I think that's good. And to the credit of lots of shows like yours.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I think your show appealed to me as I was being pitched because you guys don't agree. And like, I am very focused. My dad was a lifelong Republican, my mom a lifelong Democrat. Like, Michiganders want to get back to a place where we can disagree on politics and not have it be so like bitter.
So I hear you on.
Oh yeah, we got to come to a place where politics isn't so bitter. It is. It's a knife fight, man. Yeah, this lady is literally CIA, by the way. Politics is a knife fight. And for the average person, they experience the impact of said knife fight. There is no like true center that we need to arrive at here, okay? It's so stupid. For the people who are starving, for the people who are suffering, for the people who have never gotten anything from the government that they consider to be a positive, like they don't see it as like, oh, why can't our politicians just get along? This is just a talking point that no longer exists. Okay? A talking point that is not reflective of the reality. Democrats want fighters. Republicans have always want fighters, and they've always gotten fighters from their politicians. Obviously, their hyper-focus is like wedge issues that they cultivate, that they create, that they hammer on over and over and over again. But now the Democrats are finally actually breaking through. The Democratic Party's base of support is now finally breaking through this mold that they thought was the reality, that they thought is what their expectation was, which is like, oh, we want moderate stuff. We want people who will engage in bipartisanship. Like, no, they don't want that shit anymore. They know that it's a knife fight. They recognize that Republicans have been advocating to kill them for years and years and years at this point. Okay? They want their politicians to represent their interests and to fight back. So when Elissa Slotkin comes out and goes, no, you don't understand. We need to end this we need to end this like weird partisanship or whatever. This ridiculous back and forth. It's like, you're wrong. No, they want a fighter. People want someone to represent them. Democrats want someone to represent them. And a part of that representation is the demand from the broader base of support that You fight back. You fight back against these Republican policies and politicians.
The idea of like you want to talk about the economics and the unifying and cost of living. And I think that ignores a big elephant in the room, especially when you're talking about even Zoran Mamdani. The reason Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer don't want to endorse him is because of his position on Israel. The single most viral clip that he had in that election actually wasn't about cost of living, even though that's what he wanted to make his campaign about. His opponents, Andrew Cuomo in particular, wanted to make it all about accusing him of anti-Semitism and attacking him for his views on Israel and Palestine. So the most viral moment from that entire campaign, I believe, was this moment on the debate stage. Guys, this is E1. Let me go ahead and play this for you, and then I want to get your reaction.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not
As a Jewish state?
Notice.
As a state with equal rights.
Now, this was considered very controversial when he said it, and I think the results are in at this point that he didn't win in spite of his position there. He won in part because of it, including if you listen to Andrew Cuomo's numbers, he won a majority of Jewish voters inside of New York City. And so what I'm curious for your view on is while, you know, I would love to debate you on your healthcare policy. I think we need Medicare for all. You think public option, your housing policy, et cetera. I'm just being really real with you. I don't really hear what you say if you are still supporting a genocide in Gaza. And that's for me, you know, I'm speaking for myself, but I know there are millions of other people who feel the same, that you have to at least cross this sort of moral threshold. And
Yep. Great take from Crystal. Oh my God.
what it indicates to people, and I think part of why, you know, Zoran won so many people in New York City, young people in particular, but Jewish New Yorkers.
Remember, Ta-Nehisi Coates said, how can you expect the Democrats to care about democracy if they don't care about genocide? A party that does not care about genocide certainly does not care about your democracy as well and defending democracy as well. And it's that simple. And I think more and more people are coming to that conclusion as well. Wait, are you saying Crystal is CIA? Wait, what? No, Elissa is. Elissa
the board.
Slotkin
is because it was a sign of, number one, okay, you're focused on your
Is she based the jumping ship? No, dude. What are you talking about? Crystal Ball is Kyle Kalinski's wife and has been on this for years at this point. What are we talking about? No.
York City first and foremost. Number two, you're willing to take the heat on an issue that is really difficult for you, where you're being overtly smeared as an anti-Semite. And number three, there's no, you know, entrenched interest that's going to control. You have a spine, you have principles, you're willing to stand up for something. And so, you know, I'm curious for your reflections on that because of your voting record and where you've stood on this conflict.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the proudest moments that I had in my last election, where I just won on the same ballot as Donald Trump, was that I won a majority of Jewish voters in Michigan. We have a large Jewish population. And I won Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, and Hamtramck, the 3 Muslim-dominated cities. Trump won 2 out of the 3. So I think the thing that I would push back on is the voters vote with their feet, right? We have a moment in an election where they get to decide. And there was no issue that was more difficult for me in this last, I would say 6 years, but certainly in this last election, other than this issue, because it's personal. I'm a Middle East analyst by training. And so what I tried to do and why I think I managed to win both those communities is call balls and strikes, literally up to this week on what's going on.
So let's talk a little bit more about that.
But I think it's important, right? If you're going to push on me, then I think like there's one of us that's had an election and had to appeal to my voters and win. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that Mr. Mamdani won. Or actually, I didn't know his name. I didn't know much about him until he won. But because I think this issue is motivating people in a very visceral and personal way.
Yeah.
But it's not the only issue that my voters in Michigan care about.
Of course.
And the online world is extremely, extremely focused on this. But that doesn't always represent the majority. And I think if I can push back, like if we do we're out on the road every day in Michigan when I'm there. In some communities, that issue is the number one issue, 100%. And like, I mean, up till this morning, right? Like people texting my phone and talking about a plan, some of the things we're working on. But I go outside the Detroit area, it's not in the top 40.
But Senator, it's not just a political issue, it's also a moral issue is what I'm trying to get to. So let's talk about those, calling of balls and strikes, if you will. So first of all,
she's either sus or just chronically offline and just doesn't get it. No, she's sus. She's CIA, bro. What do you mean? She is trying to manage this. She is trying to manage the fucking back and forth here by saying, I won in spite of my wishy-washy position on Israel. That's literally her point. Her point is, I won. I know more than you because I won my election. And I won regardless of my wishy-washy position on Israel.
Do you accept that Israel has a policy of enforced famine and
starvation? And then she's also saying that like the Gaza stuff is not that significant. Like it's not that big of a deal. Like outside of Dearborn, it's just a Muslim issue. It's just an Arab issue. It's not. It's not. It's fucking bullshit. This argument was never correct. And they're still doing it. How many fucking polls do you have to see? Like not only, first of all, something doesn't need to be good politics for a politician to actually take a moral stance on it. Okay. But having said that, this is the rare instance where it's good policy, stopping a genocide. It's a moral policy, but it's also good politics. If you're not going to get punished by anyone significant for taking a stance on this issue, and instead you're actually going to win favors from significant constituencies, you take that.
In the Gaza Strip.
I think I literally put my name on a letter yesterday or last night that says like a policy of starvation, people are starting to starve. And in general, I mean, I served in places like Ramadi and Fallujah. I watched in 2004 and 2005, Al-Qaeda terrorists drag American citizens behind a vehicle until they died, right? Like horrible, and then string them up like a lynching.
Okay.
We still had a responsibility to get aid into Fallujah, despite the fact that we were fighting Al-Qaeda cells in Fallujah. And I have been clear about that.
So this is a crime against humanity. Forced starvation is a crime against humanity.
The occupying power has a responsibility to get aid into the war zone, period.
So
by the law of war.
So in addition, do you accept that the Israeli plan, as reported by Haaretz, as discussed openly by ministers like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, as backed by the President of the United States, is forced ethnic cleansing?
I think we have, as recently as yesterday, the Prime Minister of Israel talking about forced migration into certain areas and then potentially out of the country. That is not legal. That is not on any international standard since World War II. And I've been clear about that. So I would ask for a little bit of an open mind.
Well, what I would ask is, listen, I'm a YouTuber. I have my words, that's all I have.
Yeah.
But you're a United States Senator. Like you're not the president, but you have power. So what are you going to do? Because so far what we've seen, I mean, you voted for some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents. Oh
God, this is so good. It's crazy because, as Will Menaker also correctly points out, this is exactly how every journalist is supposed to be conducting these interviews. I need you guys to understand something. Regardless of people's personal biases, 20, 30, 40 years ago, okay, journalists used to be known as vultures, okay? In order to make a name for themselves, they would actually do follow-up questions such as what Crystal Ball is doing here. Okay? Regardless, whether it was on CBS, CNN, doesn't matter, right? Part of that was because they wanted to fucking make a name for themselves, and they realized that when blood is in the water, they can pounce, okay? They can attack. What Tucker Carlson did to Ted Cruz, for example, is exactly the kind of landmine that every single journalist, regardless of their personal perspective, would jump on. They would take that opportunity, no matter who they're talking to, because they knew that they would drive discourse for months back then. Okay? That was the job. And the only places where people do that now is independent media. Please don't call Tucker Carlson a journalist. Tucker will only do that when he's a person he'd be happy to trash. No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. Tucker Carlson in that Ted Cruz interview did something that old school journalists would do, regardless of their personal biases or regardless of the relationship that they might have with whoever they're interviewing. Okay? I know for a fact that Jake Tapper would not do that to Ted Cruz. And Jake Tapper is ostensibly on the opposing side ideologically to Ted Cruz. Think about that. You don't have to love a person or respect his opinion or respect his work, and a person can be good at something. I'm not speaking to whatever was the motivating reason behind Tucker Carlson's actions in that interview that he conducted with Ted Cruz. I don't like Tucker Carlson. I don't agree with Tucker Carlson. I think Tucker Carlson is one of the most dangerous propagandists in this country. Okay? I think Tucker Carlson also has ambitions of potentially running for office. What you're failing to consider here is what I'm trying to explain to you is that what Tucker Carlson did to Ted Cruz used to be the way that journalists operated, regardless of their background, regardless of their political ideology, regardless of whatever program they were on. What Crystal is doing here is journalism 101, basic follow-up questions. When the person that you're interviewing is flailing, you just keep asking follow-up questions to basically understand what their worldview looks like. Okay, this is what adversarial journalism is. It is journalism 101. And yet, nowadays, you never see that from mainstream media. And not only do you never see that from mainstream media, you also rarely even see that on independent media, either because these guys never go on independent media outlets, or even when they do, it's like Ben Shapiro. And yet, this is supposed to be the most common way that these interviews are supposed to go.
Have backed Israel, as far as I can tell, from your voting record at almost every turn. You voted for a definition of anti-Semitism that would, codify anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. You voted as a member of the House to sanction the ICC for indicting Benjamin Netanyahu, who you just admitted is a war criminal, by your own words. So are you going to join Senator Angus King, Senator Bernie Sanders in saying no more aid to this country that is committing war crimes against innocent civilians?
I think the first thing, if you're asking about what to do with power, and I would offer that right now Democrats own nothing in Washington. So
okay, so what? That should give you even more opportunity. Okay, here another thing I will mention here is that this is when Democrats are supposed to advocate for Medicare for all, knowing full well that it'll never pass, and that Trump will never vote it vote it as the law of the land regardless. So why are you not taking a stronger stance against Israel here? Regardless of your knowledge that, even on the messaging side, the Democrats are not even fucking taking a strong stance, knowing full well that it's not going to come to fruition anyway. Why are you still conceding on this side when you have no power?
Don't play powerless with me. You're a United States Senator. There are things you can do.
In terms of who runs our foreign policy, I just think it's interesting, right, that there was a ton of protests when Democrats were in charge.
There was a protest in Manhattan yesterday.
Okay. I think.
Oh, she tried to do why aren't people protesting Trump? Turns out they are, actually. You just are not paying attention. Boom. Roasted. Move on. Next question. Oh my God, Crystal is cooking.
It's fair to say, just to be honest, that back and forth, the number of protests that go on now versus before.
Well, they were part of your political coalition.
Well, not so much. Senator Slotkin.
That's fair.
Obviously, I'm here.
Yeah.
I was very upset over the Biden administration policy. And as you can tell, I'm very upset over the Trump administration policy.
Yeah.
So let's deal not in strawman, but me and here and now.
In terms of the tools that I have, the tools that we have in general, to me, the most important thing is a pressurized campaign to get aid into people who are starving. That to me is the number one, because that's the one is urgent and today. And that.
But will you cut off aid to Israel so long as they're committing crimes against humanity?
There is a difference between a weapon to protect a.
Boo. Bullshit. Also, this is why it was so ridiculous for AOC to say this exact same thing that CIA's very own Elissa Slotkin is saying. There's a difference between defensive weapons and offensive. No, shut up. No, there isn't. You know who knows that there is no difference? The Israeli conscientious objector that was on fucking Majority Report earlier today, who literally said, stop giving Israel, where he lives, defensive weapons, because everybody knows in Israel that Israel only gets to do whatever the fuck it wants to because they know America is always going to defend Israel. The idea that there is a difference between Israel's like Tamir interceptors and its defensive weapons and offensive weapons that it uses is nothing. It's negligible. It's stupid. They're the one and the same. Israel can behave only as belligerent as it wants to because it knows that America is always going to foot the bill. America is always going to defend Israel no matter what. Part of the reason why they had to cut short their incursions into Iran was literally because of their lack of defensive weapons. The U.S. used up 25% of its entire THAAD interceptor stockpile in just 12 days during the Israel-Iran war. At current rates, it'll take 3 to 8 years to replenish, a key obstacle to renewed conflict with Iran. The reason why Israel had to stop wasn't because Trump was like, you have to stop. Trump only said you have to stop because they realize we don't have enough weapons. 25% of the entire THAAD interceptor stockpile was used in a matter of 12 days. Those are $15 million a pop too. They're crazy expensive. I told you, it's so stupid.
Country from incoming missiles versus other type offensive and defensive weapons are different.
So would you support offensive weapons ban? Like, would you stop any offensive aid to Israel?
That certainly, to me, would be a place to look, but I'm not.
Oh my gosh, you won't even commit to stopping offensive weapons. First of all, this is bullshit from the start. Oh, there's a difference between defensive weapons and offensive weapons. No, there isn't. From Israel's calculation, there is no difference because Israel only, like I said, gets to behave as belligerent and as violent as it wants to because it knows that America will always replenish its stockpile. America will always defend it unconditionally. Okay? But you won't even say yes to a ban on offensive weapons anyway.
I'm not going to cut off a blanket next sale on a defensive weapon that comes through. No.
I also reject that because, for example, if Senator Slotkin, if you were asked to support defensive weapons for Iran, defensive weapons for Russia, you wouldn't back that.
No, but Iran, but
they're defensive. They're just protecting civilians, right? So how is it different?
But because Israel's being shot at.
So is Russia.
So is Iran.
Yeah.
So is Russia. So is Iran.
So is Russia.
Ukraine's shooting at Russia right now. Right?
I'm sorry. This is the difference between allies, partners, and adversaries.
Why is it an
Why? It's so good. Oh my God, this interview is so good. Oh my God, it's so cathartic to see finally a fucking politician being held up, like being called to task on this ridiculous unconditional loyalty and defense for Israel all over the and using these like fucking idiotic blanket neutral terms like, oh, we have to defend civilians. Okay. Are there no civilians in Iran? Are there no civilians in Russia? They're dying too. So what's the major difference? Oh, well, Israel's our ally. Why is Israel our ally? You just said they're doing war crimes. You won't say it's a genocide, even though everyone recognizes it as such. Why is a country doing a genocide our ally?
Ally then. What are they doing right now, which makes it an ally?
I think allied relationships, just like Lithuania right now, like an allied relationship.
Israel's just like Lithuania, really? Is Lithuania doing an ethnic cleansing campaign? That's crazy. I'm willing to bet if Lithuania tried to do an ethnic cleansing campaign, America's allegiance with Lithuania would fall apart fairly quickly. I think depending on who they're doing it to, we try to hold on to that allegiance for as long as we can. There is no other country that could, with this level of support, engage in this level of violence. There is no country, okay? Nothing. Dude, Saudi Arabia was doing an ethnic cleansing campaign in Yemen, okay? And there was more back and forth and more successful legislative initiatives against weapons transfers to Saudi Arabia, at least in the way that the Democrats communicated what they would do with Saudi Arabia, regardless of how they, when they were in power, continued this allegiance with Saudi Arabia, than there was with Israel.
Partner relationship is a long-standing relationship of information sharing and diplomacy. And that is, to me, it's not a every day we decide Lithuania is our ally or not. We're allied or not. And sometimes we have big breaks with allies, right? Sometimes we have difficult moments with allies. Sometimes it goes the wrong way with allies, but an allied relationship is a long-term relationship.
It's hard for me to understand why we should ally. Like, I'm sure you believe in, like, or claim to believe in liberal human rights. Why would we ally with a nation that is committing a genocide and live streaming it?
Can I ask, literally, like this, I think about this from the mirror image way, because I do not support the things that Donald Trump is doing, right? But I'm an American.
Why don't you? I mean, you voted along his agenda quite aggressively. You support him on Israel. You won't even take a partisan. Stance against Israel. Your voting record shows a different reality.
American. So do I want other countries to look at America and be like, we can't stand Donald Trump, so we're going to end any longstanding relationship we have with the American people. We're going to cut off any support we give them on information sharing or intelligence sharing. Like, we are not just our elected leaders. And I think that's the thing that's been lost in the conversation.
So B'Tselem and another Israeli human rights organization joined the global consensus, Amnesty International, some 800 scholars. There was a piece from an Israeli scholar in the New York Times in saying this is a genocide. Do you accept, even Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday came out and said it's a genocide. Do you accept that? And if you do, I mean, what responsibility does a United States senator have? For this is a nation that, you know, we send every year billions of dollars to aid that you have, you know, voted for and supported. Like, what responsibility does a United States senator have to prevent genocide and to stop genocide that we see ongoing?
We have a responsibility up till today to ensure that food is getting in.
Is it
so
a
that
genocide?
People don't starve. I don't know that I'd use that term,
Why?
but it is using.
Whoa, why not? It's like, this is for Democrats who are still refusing to say this. They are the Japanese imperial military soldier 39 years after the war ended. Okay, they're just holding on to something. I don't know what it is. They are the Fedayeen for Israel, I guess, at this point, where they're just like, we are so loyal. Sorry. Okay. Like, what point? What point do you? It's not AIPAC, man. Shut up. It's not AIPAC. I know she got a shit ton of money from AIPAC, but like, that's not the only reason.
It is violating the law of war.
Why don't you use the term, though?
Because I think, you know, it's, to me, do I think it's ethnic cleansing, which is what I think of in genocide? I don't know if it meets that definition.
They're announcing
but didn't you say it earlier that it was ethnic cleansing? You said that they wanted to force it. I mean, this is open from the Israeli government. Like, they're saying it. Their
And from
Minister
Trump,
of National
too.
Security, they come out and they're like, we don't need shells. We need shells, not food. And we need to encourage migration.
Look,
they're saying
you're not going to get me to
Yeah.
support what the Israeli government is saying right now. Right. I think the point I was trying to make is it's not just about, like, we have relationships with nations over time, regardless of who their leaders are. We have really tough moments. We have easier moments. But that doesn't, so I'm not willing to say that, like, I hate everything ever.
Sure,
into
but so
the future.
even if you accept that they're committing a genocide, you still wouldn't cut off their aid?
I think that defensive aid and offensive aid are different things. And I think at this point,
That's crazy. Nazi Germany, we have to keep giving them anti-aircraft weapons. There's obviously Germans in Nazi Germany that are civilians. We have to keep defending them.
what they're
Nazi
doing
Germany,
every single day
if
is
Nazi
doing,
Germany said we want defensive aid, I mean, it's just you have to see.
What do you mean, come on? You can't say come on. It's the same shit. Nazi Germany was an ally at a certain point. What do you mean? We had tremendous financial involvement with Nazi Germany.
Where they're all weapons that are being shipped. You know, in
they're
another
not using
context,
the weapons that they're using right now. I mean, to be honest, if you look at what's happening on the ground, the military part of this conflict is, for the most part, over. What they are doing,
Senator,
every single day is around aid, and they are hurting people
they have
around
slaughtered over.
The military part of this conflict is not over. They still have fucking Israeli occupying force terrorists get smoked, packed up by Palestinian resistance forces all the time. The military part of this conflict is not over. And the only reason why you could even say that, if what you were saying was true, the only reason why you would say that is because you're like, oh no, they finished the genocide. Like, they finished the ethnic cleansing part of this. And now they're just simply starving the entire Palestinian population and killing Palestinians at the point of aid delivery. That's ridiculous. You can say a lot of things are complex, complicated, lot of gray areas. This is not one of them. Genocide is not one of those areas. That's it. They can't. And that's the reason why these guys can't say Israel's an apartheid, despite the fact that everyone understands that it is an apartheid. They can't say Israel's doing a genocide because despite the fact that everybody understands Israel's doing a genocide. And the reason why they can't say that is because it immediately stops all of these conversations. It stops all of these conversations. Is that what AOC is getting bashed for? Defensive weapons for Israel? Like, AOC ultimately voted against the bill, but she voted against an amendment that was like a messaging amendment that Marjorie Taylor Greene set up to say we are stopping defensive weapons to Israel as well. She not only voted no on the amendment, she then turned around and also defended why she voted no on the amendment by saying exactly what Elissa Slotkin is saying here, which is defensive weapons need to keep going to Israel because Israel has civilians. I don't want Israeli civilians to die, blah, 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 blah. Okay? It was bullshit. It was a bullshit response. It was a bullshit reasoning. It was bullshit for her to vote no on the Marjorie Taylor Greene amendment. And it is ridiculous that AOC, that's supposed to be the beacon of positivity in Congress, like the leader of this leftist movement, the person who is supposed to take over from like Bernie Sanders, take up the mantle from Bernie Sanders, is getting outflanked by a disgusting demon, a charlatan, a cynical grifter like Marjorie Taylor Greene. It also is inherently contradictory to her initial position that Israel is doing a genocide. She said Israel's doing a genocide on the floor of Congress a year before Marjorie Taylor Greene did. She openly stated that it was a genocide literally a year and a half before any prominent politician did, with the exception of obviously the Ilhan Omar and the Rashida Tlaibs in Congress. So for her to then turn around and be like, Israel's doing a genocide, but like we have to defend the civilian population of Israel, and we have to allow Israel to continue doing a genocide because they know full well that we will always defend them, is crazy. Pointing at Marjorie Taylor Greene and being like, oh, I'm not giving her a W here is silly. You should be the one who's suggesting this, not Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Thousands of people who were starving people just trying to get aid.
That is
I
not
know you
high,
know this.
That's not high intensity bombs. That's not the weapons that that we were talking about 2 years ago. It's just not. I'm sorry. Every single day, the military reports that I read, they are traditional. Like, this is a military that has a bad strategy. It is not the bombs that we were seeing 2 years ago.
It's not a military that has a bad strategy. The strategy is...
Yeah, the strategy is pretty clear. The doctrine is pretty clear. The strategy is pretty clear. Every Israeli politician at a certain point has basically said they want ethnic cleansing. It's not like, ooh, they're making a lot of mistakes on the ground. You could have said that. It would have been a lie, but you could have at least tried to say that, 3-4 months in, beginning of 2024, right? You can't say that 22 months in. Everybody knows what the fuck is up. And you especially can't say that as a Democratic politician, because the Democratic Party and its base is not confused on this. It's a 80-20 issue. It's not even an 80-20 issue. It's a 92-8 issue now. Amongst Democrats, only 8% of Democrats think that what Israel is doing in Gaza is appropriate and good and must be supported. 8%. I can't think of anything that has this much agreement within any base of support, within any party.
Forced starvation and ethnic cleansing. That is their strategy. And they're accomplishing it very effectively with the full backing of the United States government, including, sadly, Democrats.
Well,
and so a couple more questions that I know you have to run. I'm curious why you condemned Rashida Tlaib for using the rally chant, from the river to the sea, something she said for her evokes equal rights. And you have not condemned Randy Fine, who said that Gazans should, quote, starve away, who floated that the Gaza Strip should be nuked, who called Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Soran as well, called them Muslim terrorists. Where is the concern over him?
I have no problem condemning Randy Fine, who I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know who that person is. I have no problem condemning someone who talks like that.
Senator, we have to ask your last question because...
I have no problem condemning Randy Fine, who I don't know who he is crazy. You're in Congress. He is a congressperson. He's not like some random guy on the street. What the fuck?
Your staff is telling us. Do you think AIPAC should...
Yeah, only 32% in the United States, and the overwhelming majority is Republicans, okay? Only 32%. We have finally arrived at the position that we were always going to arrive at, which is that outside of the evangelical Zionist base, the overwhelming majority of Americans do not support Israel's military actions in Gaza. 60% total disapproval. 60%. Independents at 25% support. Democrats at 8% support. Republicans at 71% support. It's ridiculous. It is completely and utterly ridiculous. 79% disapproval from Democrats, 60% disapproval from independents, 18% disapproval from the Republicans. Democrats see Netanyahu at 9%, independents favorable view of Netanyahu at 19%, Republican favorable view of Netanyahu at 67%. What are we doing? American support for Israel's military operation in Gaza and their positive views of Netanyahu have both reached new lows, reflecting sharp declines in Democrats and independent support. At the same time, Republicans' backing of Israel's military action and its prime minister is holding firm, resulting in record partisan gaps on both. The increasingly skeptical and divided American public, by the way, if the Democrats do not use this to their advantage from a partisan perspective, from a partisan framework, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you just don't want to win. You care about Israel. You only care about Israel. You don't care about anything else. You only care about Israel. That's it.
Andy,
Where is
I have
the
no
concern
problem
over him?
condemning. I have no problem condemning Randy Fine, who I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know who that person is. I have no problem condemning someone who talks like that.
Senator, we have to ask your last question because your staff is telling us. Do you think AIPAC should register as a foreign lobby?
Why is that a question? Why is that such a difficult thing to answer? Why are you pausing? The answer is yes. It's literally Israel.
I don't know the answer to that. I think that
Why? Why? It's Israel. It's literally in the name, man. It's a foreign country. Why?
that I know plenty of people who think they should. You know, I don't.
It's kind of a cop-out answer, don't you think?
I mean,
Yeah.
I literally, I just guess I'd have to look at the definition. I certainly have had my tough moments with that organization, and
So will you stop accepting their funding?
you got to get your facts straight. I have not been endorsed by AIPAC. I have not. I'm sorry. I was the first Jew
You were
elected to the Senate that was not endorsed by any Jewish group. AIPAC, J Street.
You've been the recipient of their funds.
In 2018, when I first ran, people who were members, yes, but I've not been endorsed since then. And I just got to be honest. Like, I think that this is where facts really matter.
$671,000. Did I nail it? She took J Street money, has taken $660,000 from pro-Israel lobby groups, $655,000 from independent expenditures and campaign contributions received from pro-Israel interest groups. It's not just AIPAC, by the way. God damn it. I thought it was close, but I guess I was. Oh, I wasn't endorsed. They just gave me money. Oh, okay. Then I guess you're doing this for the love of the game then. Is that right? I guess you are upholding this like unholy allegiance with a foreign nation state that is an apartheid state that is doing a genocide for the love of the game. It's also a lie anyway. Breaking. Senator Slotkin claims no AIPAC endorsement since 2021 after funding question. Records show 2022 cycle donations from AIPAC and other pro-Israel groups. On breaking points, Senator Elissa Slotkin pushed back on the criticism. In 2018, when I first ran, people who were members, I've had very difficult conversations with my colleagues and made a choice back in 2021.
I've had very, very difficult conversations with my colleagues in that organization and made a choice back in 2021. 2021. So that was the first time I was up for re-election. So I understand that there's a sort of like, again, cornered position, but to me, like, I call balls and strikes as someone who served in the Middle East.
Yeah. Also, here's wife guy Kyle Kalinske responding to Ken. Ken says, wow, a Dem senator actually went on a show that asked tough questions to the usual captured outlets. Credit where it's due. Kyle says, no credit. She saw it was a left-right show and thought it was some centristy beltway bullshit. She had no clue what she signed up for, and she learned her lesson the hard way. It's the ultimate wife guy, Kyle Kalinske here.
I have one more question I have to ask you. You know, we do the show. I really do my best to try to uphold, like, you know, basic human rights, Palestinian humanity, oppose the killing of innocent civilians wherever that happens. And I have to tell you, like, I feel really guilty that I'm not doing enough. I think all.
Yeah. One other thing I want to say is that with Ted Cruz on the Tucker Carlson show, and now with this, I think more and more independent outlets will try to get politicians on to have this kind of moment for themselves. Because at the end of the day, Hasan, you are a fucking jurors. What does that mean? Anyway, I think that there will be more of this in the future.
All the time about, I'm a mom, I think all the time about those moms who can't feed their babies. Those babies are starving to death. And I just want to know, like, you're a United States Senator, you did vote for some of the bombs that were dropped on refugee camps. When kids have been sniped in the head, tents firebombed, people set on fire. The entire Gaza Strip turned into rubble. And now we're seeing these emaciated bodies of babies starving to death every day. And I
know what you can do.
Does it eat you up? Does it eat you up? Do you think, like, what more could I do? Do you regret any of your votes? Do you regret
let me tell
any
you what
sort
I
of
was working on this
complicity?
morning. A group of Jewish rabbis and Muslim community leaders came together with a proposal that we are working on just getting, like, if we can't get other aid in, at least get baby formula and
Why can't we get other aid in? We have complete control over Israeli politics and Israeli foreign policy. If that wasn't the case, you would have cut off access to Israel a long time ago. We're working tirelessly to get baby formula in, even if we can't get anything else. It's so stupid. It's so fake. Who believes this shit?
nutritional supplements for children in. Let that be kind of a green light, never has a problem. No one's trying to eat baby formula other than a baby, right? That is the proposal that I've been working on all night and this morning. So in terms of what we're trying to do.
Wow, incredible. So you, by your own admission, the ally that we're having some trouble with is denying baby formula into the Gaza Strip, which it is the belligerent occupier of, that it has pummeled into oblivion, that has committed a litany of war crimes. You won't say it's a genocide, but you admit that there's a litany of war crimes. And you still have this argument that, like, well, we have to keep up their defense. There is no world where this is a consistent position, okay? It is not consistent. Israel has specifically denied baby formula from going in with doctors and medical volunteers going into the Strip. Exactly. They literally stop American doctors that are trying to bring in baby formula into the Strip. They stop and they dump out the baby formula. Senator Slotkin acknowledges that Israel blocked baby formula, but still won't support cutting off the flow of arms. Why would the U.S. want to arm a country that cuts off baby formula?